Hey there YouTube, I'm Yukitsu, this is the Yukitsu Times, welcome to my channel, welcome back to Battlefleet Gothic. So I've struggled my way up to this point with my Orc fleet. Orcs are by far the worst faction for me because there's just so many counters to them, and a lot of people have been playing those Chaos fleets, although I've been managing to kill more ships from them than Orcs have traditionally been killing from my fleet, so that's fine. Now, Orcs, as a sort of general rule, only get one ship per tier, but they've got this customization, so they really end up having several large numbers of different types of configurations that all work very, very similarly. Here we've got another ship that's got that sort of same general look to it, but it's much bigger. It's got 1,000 hit points, which is good for a cruiser. It's got that troop value of 70, turrets 9, armor 75, 50, 25, blah, blah, blah. Its speed is listed here incorrectly. It's actually supposed to be 150. But it is equipped with a lot of different things here, and you can make it sort of however you kind of want to because of that. You've only got 2 custom points, so you can only change 2 out of the 4 weapon configurations here. It starts off with the prow guns, which are a good long-range weapon. It's one of the few 9,000 range weapons that can actually sort of deal a good amount of damage to an enemy that's running away. You can replace that with the zap cannon, which is even better at range. The reason that the zap cannon is so good is because it is an automatic hit out 12,000, whereas the 9,000 range guns have to contend with the fact that the orc weapons have really bad accuracy at those distances. But the problem with it is its DPS is extremely low because its rate of fire is very, very bad, and it only fires that sort of one every once in a while. You've got the option between the Mega Cannon and the Prow Torpedo Launcher yet again, so it's got that same sort of configuration over there, which is kind of a good thing here. You could get the Mega Cannon for that really good burst damage at the front, and then rely on the Prow Guns for that sort of longer range thing, or even the Mega Zap Cannon if you really wanted to really go with the front-facing behemoth there, but it doesn't necessarily synergize too well. Personally, I like getting the Mega Cannon so that I can use the Prow Guns if I need to at long range to poke at somebody to make them sort of feel like they have to get closer and try and finish me off or something like that if they don't have good long range weapons themselves. And, you know, it's a front-facing weapon, so it lets me fire at them consistently while chasing. I just happen to think that it's a decent setup for that sort of ship. Now, the Zap Gun is also quite good. The problem is that enemy shields will usually be up before you can actually take them down using something like the Mega Zap Cannon. You would need several Mega Zap Cannons to actually take those out. This lets me clash using both the Prow Guns for that good DPS as well as this Mega Cannon. So that's the configuration that I personally like. We've got the lots of guns along the sides here and another set of lots of guns. And you could actually just make a ship with tons of heavy cannons and make their broadside absolutely vicious. Honestly, I think that the burst damage from those heavy cannons needs to be supplemented with those rapid-fire lots of guns, because the lots of guns do rack up the damage very, very fast if you can keep someone there for a second. It's just that if you get them sort of with that wobble where you sort of are picking at them with the front guns or whatever, and then you can only get them on your broadsides for a brief moment, then that's when the lots of heavy cannons really, really comes into itself. You could also go ahead and make this into a full-on assault carrier by going like that. This will give it a carry capacity of 4, which is absolutely great, but I think it's a little bit weird for them to do that. One of the reasons that you don't necessarily want to do that is this becomes a very, very easy to kill lead brick that just sort of sits there and gets pulled apart by anything that wants to destroy it. It has no real defenses. It has to defend itself with those Prow Guns. Not exactly the greatest way to do that. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and get the Mega Cannon and a single set of the heavy cannons. So you can configure it however you think fits your playstyle best. But I don't know if I would recommend necessarily the carrier configuration. One of the things that you have to remember about orcs is that they're not really designed for carrier combat, despite the fact that they have ships that could potentially have lots of carrier capacity. Because some of these ships, you'll have those fleets of fighters, but they're not particularly good fighters. They're missing out on a little bit of what makes fighters good. We're missing the points required for the renown required for our abilities here. Mostly because we've been doing pretty poorly with this particular fleet, and we're going to continue to do pretty poorly with this fleet just because we're now going into this with a cruiser that doesn't have any abilities. That's not really the best way to win battles. We have got our Bashal Light Cruiser, though, which has been traditionally a pretty reliable thing to do. Honestly, I'm getting some pretty bad mismatches here, and it does not help at all. Yeah, we're against Chaos again, and Chaos will just automatically wreck me for free. What we're going to do in this particular case, since I don't really feel like losing my cruiser in this one. I'm going to actually just take a bunch of escort ships, and I'm going to show you something that you can do if you're having trouble with fighters. I think that this is really just the meta right now, is that everyone's taking chaos and taking lots of fighters, as I was describing earlier. It really is how you win with them, and I can't really blame people for doing that, especially against orcs who are still vulnerable to that sort of type of counterplay. But we're going to go ahead and see if we can find a good old spot where we can engage the enemy on our terms to some degree or another. Now, these Savage gunships don't have a lot of turret power, but they have got some turret power, and this means that our escort screens like this, every ship that they fly past when they try and launch fighters at us, is going to lose a little bit of its attack power from that wave. So if we keep all our ships like this, we'll actually destroy quite a few of them. I'm going to go ahead and just have this set to boarding. It's definitely a broadside type ship, and it's not going to work against the Chaos Fleet, but you know, that's fine. I'm perfectly okay with this. I am kind of wondering, like, why, if Imperials are considered, like, weak right now or something, because I have faced off against 0 Imperials since this game has come out. It's kind of weird. Well, not 0. I'm pretty sure I played one, like, a mirror match with Imperials, but... Alright, so they've got probably... I don't think I can get out of the auger probe. I'm not going to worry too much about it. Yeah, I'll try and get out of the auger probe with as many of my forces as I can, but ultimately, our opponent here has got a good setup for defeating orcs, and there's just not a whole lot you can necessarily do about it at this point in time. And it really is just a matter of coping with your shots, with your games, until you can get out of this hellhole that is low-level orcs. Once you get those tractor cannons, once you get the Nova cannons, if you just spam out Nova cannons, it can get really hilarious. I think I'm going the wrong direction to avoid this, actually. Nah, you know, whatever. I'm just gonna go into this gas cloud. It'll identify a whole bunch of our ships, but that doesn't actually matter all that much, because we'll just go into this gas cloud. And this is why I don't like auger probes. I like, okay, well, you identified all my ships, that's lovely, but I'm just gonna walk in here, and then my ships are gonna be able to resist getting spotted, and that's fine. Let's go ahead and maybe even boost. I think it's hilarious how the orc ships actually slow down before they red button. It's kind of bad. Alright, so we've managed to do a good red button burn, get everybody into this gas cloud here. And that stops him from just launching fighters at us with impunity, that since he had identified us with that auger probe. And that's all we really want to avoid, is free identification. Alright, so we're going to try and keep our cruiser close by to our escorts. Oh, there's a landmine there. Alright, well... that's fine, I guess. Alright, so my opponent's carrier has the option of trying to use its carrier fleet against my ships, but it's not really a great time to be doing that because most of my ships here are just escorts. And if he's trying to use those boarding ships, it puts them on cooldown and doesn't really accomplish anything. He's used up all his burn, I think, there. Oops, I'm gonna ram a mine with one of my escorts, but you know what? That's fine. Derp. Yeah, that was really dumb of me. I thought I had a little bit more leeway, but the turn radius on these guys is so bad. Alright, so we've been identified, unfortunately. So we're just going to try and keep our escort ships close to our big ship. Our opponent's popping Imperial, or Tactical Cogitators. I don't know why he's using his lock-on ability here. It's a really bad choice of ability use there. I'm going to turn this off. I don't want to board a little vessel like that. Alright, let's go ahead and make sure that these are all set to front firing. I don't think I managed to set it on that. He's just going to continue burning all the way. He's going home, guys. Alright, so that's interesting. Alright, so we're getting a bit of flak from a long-distance shot from that cruiser that they've got there, or that light cruiser. I'm assuming it must be a light cruiser, actually. But once we get in here... Yeah, they got another auger probe. But the auger probe's going to pass over us, and it's not going to really do anything, because, like, we'll be like, oh yeah, well, we've been auger probed, but,
What you want?
now that we've been auger probed, we just stay in the cloud, and he still has to approach us. Alright, so, got a couple of ships that are capable of contributing to fire to this. You can see that one of the waves got completely wiped out. I don't know if we got hit by very many of those bombers there. I don't think we did. Alright, it got within range of those heavy guns. Now getting some flak from those lots of guns. You can see the difference in damage between them. Lots of guns don't do any damage. Gonna try and keep up with the guns here. No, I don't think we hit. Alright, let's get some shots in against this cruiser here. We can turn our guys back onto this. We're going to want to turn on specific shots against his engines there. I think he's still going to get us on that ram there. Yep. Let's go ahead and repair it. I don't actually know what's causing that much damage there. He doesn't have any really high damaging weapons on him. And he didn't ram me, so I'm not 100% sure what was going on there. I don't know, maybe just got a really good broadside or something, or maybe I got hit by bombers and wasn't noticing. Maybe he's not using, he might be using actual bombers instead of the other things. Alright, I think we got him with a heavy gun. Alright, let's see if we can't block some of these shots again. Again, going past these escorts means that's going to absorb a little bit of hits. Yeah, he's using real bombers. Okay, interesting. It's not common. You usually see assault ships in this matchup. We are going to lose our cruiser, though. Not 100% sure if that's a great idea here. Like, it will destroy my ship, but he's going to take a lot of damage from that. He's going to take damage as well once that explodes, so... Alright, well... Don't know if that actually came out better for him, honestly, because he was winning already. But whatever. Alright, so... Yeah, he's down a fighter bay here, so this ship is pretty crippled. We're managing to deal some damage to it. Let's see if we can't take out this guy as well. Our guns are on such long cooldowns here. Come on, guys, fire. The accuracy is also really bad, so I'm not necessarily actually hitting here. There we go. Good hit. One of those 4 shots hit. Looks like a couple of the shots here hit. Yeah. Alright. That was an interesting choice. Alright, let's go ahead and just try and get in there. This is going to hurt my little escort here quite a bit. Those bombers deal a lot of damage to things like escorts, so just have to get in there. This is why I was saying the orcs can actually do escort play and get around that problem that normal escorts have of just being too fragile and not being able to do enough damage. These guys definitely do enough damage, like that's the big thing. Boom. Damn, missed. One of those? Nope. Do you have any of these guys with guns here? Or all heads? I think that was the wrong thing. Either way. Our opponent is just going to kite us to death here, though. Let's get into this gas cloud. We'll try and avoid getting kited too badly. This is kind of why it is stupid playing against them. It is just like, they can do this. We'll try and take out his generators if he's going to run around like this, because if I get one good volley off, he's dead. Although it will have to be like a couple of hits, because this one's going to explode from the fire. Yep. Alright. Alright, so we're down to 2 Savage gunships, which is not ideal,
We's ready.
but it is possible for us to win this one at this point in time.
Orcs is
Alright, are we gonna
burst.
get the shots off? No. Okay. Let's go ahead and turn back. Slowly get back into this cloud here. Looks like he is unfortunately get that bombing run off me too. Oh, and he blew me up. Oh, now yeah, he's gonna win this one now. That was a really good bomber use. I should have sped ahead there. Oh, his detection range I think is augmented. No, actually that is exactly at the tip of a detection range. Alright, so we're gonna have to do something really stupid here, but let's see if it works. No, he's running away now. And there's no way for us, unfortunately, to catch up to him with our little escort here.
We's ready.
Oh yeah, and we missed all our shots there. So yeah, he's gonna win this one. But again, like, right now, orcs just have no way to win against certain compositions, and our opponent certainly did have that composition. I don't know what they're going to be able to do about it, but when you're playing as them, just don't get too frustrated. Know that it does get better. When you're playing as these guys early game, I mean, you could just really sit in the gas clouds, I guess, for a lot longer, and that sort of works, unless your opponent has a lot of auger probes and a lot of recon beacons. In which case, yeah, that's not going to work all that great. The one thing that they probably need to do for them is give them some sort of option that gives them more speed, or lets them more reliably crit against engines. Otherwise, like this happens, there's nothing they can really do about it. I probably could have brought like an escort of fighters or something like that, but honestly, I didn't have access to it because my carrier had blown up, and since I don't have that many ship slots, it just wasn't going to happen. That one actually didn't. Oh no, that did do a lot of damage. This is why I was saying that Eldar, you should always try and counter them using bombers if you can. They do tremendous amounts of damage to them. Alright, so I really wish he would just kill me, because he can kill me in a straight up fight at this point. One of the things I think he doesn't realize is that I've got a 12-second cooldown on the gun that I've got there, so that means that I'm never going to actually be able to take down his shield and then deal damage to his ship. Like, look at this turn radius on the escort ship. It's so brutal. So, yeah, this is kind of the problem I have with orcs, is that they don't have very many options for dealing with this sort of stuff. If they do take these sort of options, they become worse at the thing that they're supposed to be good at, to the point where quite often, like, Imperials will beat them at it. So, it really just comes down to the fact that they aren't really all that good right now, but they are a lot of fun to play as. I think that currently one of the other problems is that Chaos is really bad for the game in the position they're in right now, because all they do is carrier spam and kite, exactly the same sort of thing that I was teaching you guys to do earlier. They need to do something about that to prevent that kind of gameplay behavior by making them better in closer combat, and simultaneously, of course, they want to stop that sort of carrier play. I think what they probably need to do is make it so that crits are repairable, so that you're no longer capable of just critting a ship to death using boarding actions and rendering it completely useless immediately. And that would stop them from just doing that dance far away, trying to keep away from your opponent for an endless period of time. And if they did that, then Chaos would be a lot more interesting and engaging to play as, because while you could disable a bunch of systems, you could use that as an opportunity to then get in when you've got an advantage. I think that would make it much better, but as the current way it is, you don't want to be playing as orcs against Chaos, and Chaos a lot of the time just isn't fun to play against. Myself, when I'm playing as them included, it's just they are really, really poorly designed in that sort of sense. But at the same time, they do exactly, I think, what they're supposed to be doing. So they just need to put in more counterplay options for that sort of style of dancing around the map. The big thing that I think actually does need to be changed is the amount of thruster that they get on the all-ahead full. If that had been more carefully managed, I think it would be a much more manageable game and much more interesting game. So for upgrades on this sort of thing, this is one of those cases where I do want to sometimes get boys early, because it's a big target, it's a big dumb target, people focus a lot of fire on it, so it does tend to get criticals against it, and once it does, it's completely useless, but at the same time it is covered in guns, so it's also quite good to get this thing upgraded with a Master Gunner. Grots as well. Like, you really need all three of these things for orcs. Mech boys are kind of useless for them because you don't want to be using emergency repairs. I'm pretty sure percent based, or not percent based. I'm pretty sure it's a flat amount of health when you repair, and when you upgrade this, it's still a flat amount ultimately. So. Not a huge amount of improvement if you get mech boys because you've got so many hit points that's not actually improving the amount that you're repairing it by that much. In this particular case, we're going to go ahead and get the Master Gunner. I just think that our ship is so spec towards having lots and lots of guns that does help out. And if you can get criticals on the enemy ships, it can mitigate some of the criticals that you've taken yourself. For upgrades for the orc ships, for this one, like, it's a big, dumb, stupid brick, basically. It only has 100 shields, which is weird because it's a full-size cruiser. It should have 200, but the orc one only does have 100, which means that the extra void shields does actually mean more for them than it does for other factions. And that can actually be a good choice for them. Because of that, you just take the extra shields, you improve that by 100 points. That's actually quite substantial. Doubles the amount of shields that you have. And the other thing that I think you want to take is lots of thrusters. I'm going to pick this up as my first one just because of the way that the way things currently are. It feels like that's actually really important right now because everyone is taking Chaos Fleets. So that is what we're going to unfortunately have to take there first. It lets us sort of potentially catch up to some of them a little bit more easily, and we're going to have to definitely work towards that idea of trying to keep up to them, trying to actually catch them. I mean, these are the only faction in the game where I would recommend getting the turn radius upgrade on your escorts because they turn so slowly that they can't even fulfill the role necessarily. It's kind of hilarious. I actually think it's quite charming for them, but at the same time, you know, you really do need to get your guys leveled up and get those favors here. Let's look at those favors. I haven't shown them yet. The Evil Sons clan is the first of them, and this is an interesting way to deal with an enemy that is trying to kite around. Now, you have something called a traktor cannon. So when an enemy ship sort of tries to get away, you can actually just force it to move towards you. You can tractor it in, keep it in place, ram it, get it damaged badly, get it into a boarding position. So it's a little bit of an arbitrary screw you to people who are trying to kite around too much. You've also got the bigger red button, which means that your combustion gauge refill rate is improved. So it's much easier to catch people when you've upgraded people to the Evil Sons clan. This is the sort of thing where you would probably want to have multiple ships upgraded this way. If you chain the tractor beam, it can really wreck someone's day. You can keep someone there unlimited amounts of time. You can then taunt them. You can then tractor beam them in again and just keep them there for a really, really long time while they're getting pounded. The next one is the Blood Axes clan. This is the other faction that sort of deals with the problems that the orcs have. They've got the Nova Cannon. The Nova Cannon does explode 1 in 4 times for the orcs. It's not as good, therefore, as the Imperial Navy one, but it still is something you can spam out there and try and entice your opponent to come forward into your range. Because if they keep dancing around at long range, you can just start Nova Cannoning him. And if you get like 4 or whatever light cruisers all armed with Nova Cannons, those are extra guns that they all have, by the way. They don't replace a weapon. So they could all have their current loadout plus a Nova Cannon, and just doesn't matter if one or two of them get exploded every volley. You just keep launching those out, you just keep firing them, and your opponent is going to have to do something about that. And if that means closing the distance, if it means stopping their kiting behavior with their carriers, because if they don't stop, they'll just slowly get blown apart by the Nova guns, then that's what they're going to have to do. The other option that they get because of this is the commando training, which lets them run silently. It is exactly just normal running silently, but it helps mitigate that sort of problem that orcs have of not being able to do that, and it can let them sort of disengage if the opponent has got lots of carriers. So this is a very anti-carrier type fleet, in my opinion, because the Evil Sons clan, you might not necessarily actually catch up to a carrier-focused fleet using to actually even use the tractor cannon. The Blood Axes clan, I think, is a much better direct counter to that carrier play. The other one is the Dagoth clan. They deal more ramming damage, and they also have additional assault actions when boarding. Honestly, I don't like Dagoth clan. I don't think that these abilities or bonuses are particularly useful because the orcs already want to ram things. They already do more damage when they do that than most other ships. They take less damage by percent because they've got really good rams in the front. They've got really good hit point pools, so they don't need this to do that sort of stuff. They've already got more assault actions. This doesn't increase their troop value, so it doesn't help that defensively, it doesn't help that in any other sort of way, it doesn't help their lightning strikes. All it does is assault actions when boarding. Now, if it counts towards their carrier stuff, then maybe that's something I'm not sure of. I haven't actually done any testing on that, and it's hard to tell. If it does that, and you can get a dedicated carrier ship with just 4 waves of assault boats with extra assault actions each, then that might be worth it then, but I have not actually managed to figure out if that works in that way or not, and it's difficult to tell just by looking. The last one here is the Bad Moon Clan. As you can see here, they've got... it's essentially a really long distance lightning strike. It is just another lightning strike though. It has much longer range, sure, but it has a longer cooldown. So you could theoretically use it to disable those chaos ships that are getting away from you by trying to disable their engines, but it's not exactly the easiest thing to do, and you're not guaranteed to get those criticals like you would if you had the Lytok version of this, which is much stronger but on a much longer cooldown. The next thing is the Teeth Surplus, which gives you an extra upgrade slot, which can actually be extremely good. So the Bad Moon Clan honestly could be a little bit better. It would be nice if this just said 1+1 lightning strike and 25,000 range on your lightning strike. That could potentially be interesting. Not really sure, but it feels as though this is a little bit lackluster just because you're not guaranteed to get that critical that you absolutely need, and then you have to wait 2 whole minutes before you can try again. If I was going to take the Shock Attack Mega Cannon, I would definitely do it from a cloud or whatever, and just use recon beacons to scout the enemy. And if they're flying around with carriers, try and slowly pick apart their systems while sitting in that cloud, and that can be very effective. That can work. But honestly, it feels easier most of the time to use the Blood Axes to deal with that sort of stuff, or the Evil Suns clan, especially for dealing with Eldar. The Evil Suns clan is probably the best option. So, yeah, that's orcs right now. I wouldn't recommend playing them. They're fun if you can get them to work properly, and they're fun to fail with, in all honesty. I enjoyed those matches even though I was losing. But they're frustrating to play against a lot of the other groups because they don't have the tools that they need to use their strengths or advantages. There's no faction in the game that has to go gun to gun with orcs. Not even the Imperials have to. They can easily evade them if they want to. So there's a lot of really bad problems right now with the orcs, and it's hard to get around them until you really just grind your way up there and get those more advanced weapons. So stick to it. Lose a lot of battles. Losing battles is part of being an orc, I think. And get yourself up there to those Evil Suns clans or the Blood Axes clan, and get those special abilities and really wreck your opponents once you get that. And it's a bit of revenge. It's a bit of catharsis once you get up to that level of renown. So anyway, I hope you found this video enjoyable. I hope you found it informative, and of course, as always, I hope to see you all next time.